In this episode of the Tech Jawn, AI showcases the same types of racist bias that people do. As they're coming to Google AI overviews, police seldom tell us when they use facial recognition, and VR glasses make facial recognition really, really easy. Got all this and more for you in episode 149 of the Tech Jawn from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl, Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. Get Geeked. It's homecoming week. I don't know if y'all can see that or on the audio. I know that y'all can't see that, but those of us watching, it is Tennessee State's homecoming week this week. I'm not going to be able to make it because my kids are so busy nowadays. Our schedule is crazy, but I would like to make it. But to all those who are planning on making trips to, hope you have a good time. Hope you stay safe, but I hope you have a good time.
I was at Morgan's. I popped into Morgan's homecoming over the weekend. My sister graduated from Morgan, and I called her Saturday morning, and she was recovering from whatever she had done on Friday night. And I'm like, "Listen, you can't hang like you used to." And but I was like, you know what? It was Saturday. Was one of those days. It was gorgeous out. I was like, let me get on the road. Baltimore's only an hour and a half from Philly, so I was like, let me pop on the road, do a little spontaneous pop up. It was cool. I mean, I didn't do anything. We didn't go to the game. We just kind of hung out, and there were a couple people down there I know as well, some of her friends and stuff like that. So we just kicked it. But I was like, homecoming is definitely different than when we were there.
What you mean? Different as in busier, or different
Well,
as in
this the student. I mean, obviously, kids and the dress and the
the
whole
outfits? Yeah, I
vibe,
mean, yeah.
the vibe in general. I was like, wow, this is different.
I am going
You're not being old lady, are you? You're not doing old.
Get
You're not
off
doing
my
it.
lawn.
You sound like it. It's getting closer and closer and closer.
Man.
I am
But it was
going.
cool though.
I'm going to A&T's homecoming next week, as long as this hurricane don't trip like the last one did. Because don't want to be down there in the midst of weather disaster type stuff. But yeah, I want to be headed to GHO, the greatest homecoming on earth, as they call it. Which this will be my third time.
And I was telling somebody about that when I was down at Morgan. I was like, I've never actually been to A&T's homecoming. And I was like, but one of my podcast co-hosts' daughter goes there and he goes. So maybe next year.
Yeah,
I'll hop in the car with y'all.
It's a thing. And the nice thing is it's like really warm. So, it's earlier in the year. So, I don't mind sitting in stands when it's like 60 as compared to sitting in them when it's 40.
I know. I was looking. FAMS is at the end of the month. It starts the 28th, I believe. I'm like, there's still time. We'll see. You never know. I might pop up there in my orange and green.
Yo, before we get to our tech stories, I want to let everyone know that you can support the Tech Jawn by heading over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. Over there, we've got multiple tiers, any one of which lets you get access to our live stream and after party, which we'll be doing after the show. But I had some folks saying, hey, how do we support the show? I figured that we've been putting it at the end, but I want to put it at the beginning. If you would like to support, Patreon is the way to do it. So once again, it is patreon.com/TechJawn or thetechjawn.com/Patreon. Any one of those links will work.
Yeah, we need y'all to give up some of that money because your boy needs a new camera.
Speaking of which, let's just do the audible bed and let's just talk about it. So, yeah, you've been struggling with your camera for the better part of the last month or so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the recording publishing software because it started blinking out to where I couldn't change my cameras between the FaceTime camera that comes on my MacBook and my separate camera. I've always been having like nitpicky problems with this camera, but then that kind of, what is the straw that broke the camel's back? It's like, all right, it's got to be the camera. So I'm doing some testing. I've actually got my iPhone 16, my iPhone 16 Pro Max mounted up as my camera right now, and it looks much better. So it's like, all right, now I may have to start looking for a new camera. But the problem is I don't want to go all out and get one of those cameras that everybody else is using. Most people are using those blogger cameras. Sony makes one. Whom else makes one? Maybe Canon maybe makes one. I'm not sure. I know there's a Fuji, I think, makes one. But anyway, but they're full-blown cameras. I don't want a full-blown camera. I just want a camera that I can stick in my little setup, record. I don't have to worry about trying to transfer data. I don't be trying to worry about lenses. I ain't trying to charge batteries. I just want to turn it on, record my podcast, turn it
Mhm.
off,
Have it
and
connect to the computer.
have it.
That's it.
None
So
of that.
one of the things you were saying in the green room is that you don't want to go full blown like DSLR camera, the camera cameras, but you also don't want to get just a little cheap webcam either. And
Yeah, look for
I'm
something
not
they
going to
can
get in
do.
your pockets, but you said you're going to spend a little bit. So what would be the reason for not getting a quote unquote vlogger style camera?
Too much work, and I only use it for shooting
It's
podcasts.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I guess if you're into cameras, it's not a lot. But like I said, I have a Canon EOS R.I.P. That I use for my television stuff because it really does make a huge difference. I mean,
Mhm.
it makes like literally the backdrop. Anybody watching right now that sees my backdrop, my typical bookshelf backdrop, like it makes it look like a set, honestly, with
Mm-hmm.
the lighting that I have and the different things that I've done to kind of pull it all together. And you do get that better sort of letterbox framing and all
Mhm.
that. But it's a lot. I mean, I set it up. I set it up it's on my desk. The camera, literally, I'm looking at it right now. It's just stays in its place on
Mhm.
my desk because I know that's where it needs to be.
Okay.
And I can just roll. My desk is on wheels, so I can push it forward and backward
Mm-hmm.
to kind of position it where it needs to be. But I know where it's positioned on the little desk tripod that it's
Mhm.
on is where it needs to be when I'm ready to do some stuff, for TV. But it's a hassle. It's a hassle to set up. Like I said, when I set it up initially, like I did, swap out a couple different lenses to try to see which one was going to look the best. I was like, do I want it on a tripod away from the desk so I can move it, or do I want it like it was more work. Like it
Mhm.
was worth it, like I said, because it looks really, really good. And it gives you that automatic
Bokeh.
at least, yeah, my
Mm-hmm.
35 millimeter lens gives
Mhm.
me that. The other lenses I have don't necessarily do
Mm-hmm.
that, but the 35 millimeter that I have gives me that automatic bokeh because I don't have a lot of space in my room.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't be that far away from this
Right.
backdrop to do a normal bokeh based off of distance. Like
Right.
normally it's just like if you're far enough away from your backdrop, it's
It'll
going to
Mm-hmm.
put you,
automatically do it. Yeah.
yeah, but I don't have enough space in this room to do that without really, like, you can do it on cinematic on the iPhone. It looks like that on cinematic, but I don't have enough space. So it does that automatically. It looks really good, blurs that black backdrop out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looks really good.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm only going to set all that up and get it going when I'm doing TV. I mean, I've run
Right.
it through Ecamm, the whole nine. Like it's a
Mhm.
whole production basically, that I'm really not trying to do for anything else besides that. So I
So
get it. I get it. All
so
that to say, I get it, Terrance.
So the camera, Terrance, that I am using is the overkill that you would say you don't want to deal with. I'm using
Mhm.
a Sony FX30,
Mhm.
which is a cinema camera, and right now I think I have like a Tamron 35-70, lens on it, and it looks good. And this is Stephanie, what you're talking about. I want to do for people who are not listening, who are only listening. You can't see this, but I'm literally going to hold my fingers away, up in front of the camera. And now that you see that, if you look at like me now, I've completely blurred out. My hand
Mhm.
is only 15 inches away from my face, but I'm literally completely blurred out as soon as I do that. Yeah, you need glass to do that.
Yeah.
But Terrance, you can go something better than a webcam, but not all of that. So the camera that I was using for the first 2.5 years of the show or one of them was what was I using? The Sony ZV-1. So it's a little small camera. It is a camera, but it has a
But
fixed lens.
that's one of those blogger cameras though,
Right.
right? I hear about the ZV
Mm-hmm.
one a lot.
So yeah,
Yeah.
the ZV the one, it has a fixed lens on it, and it was a
Mhm.
zoom lens, and so I could zoom in, zoom out, but I basically plug it in, put it on, put it on a tripod, just leave it sit there, and I turn it on no differently. I mean, that is the one thing you have to do in addition to a webcam. The camera is
Mhm.
not turned on all the time, so I literally have to
Mhm.
turn the camera on. But when it comes to battery, I don't worry about it. I just plug the USB cable in and charge it while I'm doing whatever, and it literally will run forever, as will this FX30. You can even go a little lower than that. So there's something now called the ZV-1F, which stands for fixed lens. So instead of having that nice zoom lens on it, it's just a point. It's just a regular point and shoot. You can't do anything with the lens. You want to get in focus. You move closer. You move back. There is no zooming in or zooming out. So there's that. But then there are the other ZV cameras. Like I think that Nika uses the ZV-E10, which is what I also use. That is my B camera now. And that's where you have to start buying the lenses. But once again, they are pretty straightforward. You plug them in, these ones, you plug them in, you power them, and you turn them on, and they just run forever, and you do what you need to do.
And I'm looking at the ZV-1. It's $398 on Amazon. I think I would want to be able to zoom if necessary. So maybe that ZV-1. I mean, I'm obviously not buying another camera at this point. I got a camera sitting there looking at a camera. But I could see the ZV-1 if I wanted a camera, if I wanted to get that camera feel.
But
I get it. But it's just like there's got to be, and I'm looking for, and I thought I had it, but again, this thing is software cumbersome. Software's got to be running versus my phone. I just plug it up, and all the services recognize it the same way with a regular webcam. But there has to be like a middleman between I want to take some phone calls and I want to shoot a vlog. Then maybe I need to start this business. There needs to be a podcasting camera.
So are you looking for like a Logitech but better type something?
Logitech has a 4K Pro webcam that shoots 4K, which is like, all right, bet shoots 4K. It's USB-C, plugs into my dock. It is HDR. I'm like, all right, check. And it's only $200. Check.
There you go.
So I'm gonna look at this a little bit harder because, like I said, all I need is 4K, and then but maybe what my problem is some of those cameras that you all mentioned that you currently have do a lot of work picture wise as far as lighting. Maybe I need to step up my lighting because I've got a light that does the different tones, but it ain't them lights with the little thing on the front that I'm assuming y'all have.
Like a softbox.
Yeah. Maybe if I did that, I could use any camera that I got because, lighting is a major part of it that, I just got a light and make sure it's shining on my face and I make sure my forehead ain't oily. And that's the extent of my lighting. So maybe I need to step up my lighting a little bit more.
That is
what you're
definitely
doing
the case.
right now. Yeah, what you're doing right now looks good to me. I mean, I'm looking at both of y'all's lighting, and I think because y'all got dark backdrops, and I have a lighter backdrop is a little bit different. But I only have one softbox facing me. Now for camera stuff, I have to close all my blinds. I turned all my other lights in my room out. The overhead light in my room goes out. I still only use the one softbox. And then I have strips on the sides of these bookcases, light strips that run all the way down that I turn those on. So you get that backlight from that. And then the front and, with the rest of the room, I'm telling you, it looks amazing. But like I said, I just ain't trying to do all that for this. Right. I'm like the FaceTime camera, my softbox. I do still have my overhead light on, and this is what y'all gonna get.
And that's ultimately where I'm trying to get ease of use. I come downstairs, click, click, click. I'm on. I ain't trying to do like
have the setup already done.
Make sure things are charged and whatever. I just come down, plop my laptop, plug in my dock, get on the internet, and we gone.
Lighting is everything.
Yeah,
when it comes to cameras. And the biggest mistake that so many people make is that they have a webcam. It's like, I need to look better on my Zoom calls. So they go from the $200 webcam to a $1,200 DSLR, with another $400 lens on it. And then they're using the exact same lights they were using before. And all you do is look better, but dark. the light is what does everything.
Okay.
You know, for you, and it can give you like separation, because like Steph, I'm like you, I can turn around and touch that back wall. But one of the reasons why it looks, you know, different is that my key light is only lighting me. The back wall is being lit by my hair light. And then you can see there's, you know, for folks
Let's
who are
see.
not
See, now
watching,
you already,
Terrance
I'm
is like,
already
you
checked out.
already lost me.
I'm checked out.
but it's not a lot. Like I said, I just got that
You
one
already lost me.
little teal light over my right shoulder. And then I've got like these little twinkle lights that are on my, you know, on my sound panels that they're just hanging down. Like in the frame we're in right now, you can't see a whole lot of it, but it ultimately, lighting is everything. But here's the thing, Terrance, I know you would like this. I can come on down and just say, hey, keyword, turn on studio lights, and everything's on. I don't have to, it's not like I'm fussing around with stuff. I have one light that is not on that, and I have an app on my phone, and I turn that on, you know, with my phone. But everything else is like, hey, keyword, turn lights on, turn studio lights on, and they just responding to me right now. So I don't want to do anything, but they just come on. But yeah, lighting is everything when it comes to a camera. And if you're not going to do lights, like I said, before you go spend $1,000 on a new camera, go spend $150, $200 on some lights and make the camera you have look great, because that new camera that you get will not look great if you don't have a light for it.
True.
So
yeah, I'm gonna air some grievances to this current camera because I thought it was like in the middle. I'm like, bet it's perfect. It's not video, you know, audio phone, you know, video phone call, FaceTime stuff, but it ain't one of those big cameras. But it's like, I'm at the send them some tweets. Maybe that'd be the one reason
Send
why I get back on Twitter.
a stern 2-star review.
Right. Yeah. But I'll let y'all know how what I end up with, what turns out. I may just plug my phone up because it's like, again, the best camera I got is in my pocket. So
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the
yeah,
truth.
it's amazing how good
Are
these
you
cameras
using
are.
your phone vertically right now?
nope. I got it. I should have. You know what? No, I've got it horizontal because when I go back and edit the video for the YouTube,
Yeah.
it comes out horizontal and I stack us back together because the
Okay.
audio, the video on the actual local recordings is better than the video that comes out once we, you know, done streaming. So I want to go back to that quality. So I do keep it horizontal and then I smush us back again.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah, so like you said, let us know what you decide to do. Like I think I got Nika hooked up with what she's using. And and like I said, I noticed that when she went from what she had before to where she started using the ZV-E10, and I think she told me she's only using the kit lens on there. You can just tell it's like, yeah, she's got a full APC camera now that can do a whole lot more. So let us know what you get. But we're going to jump into some of these additional stories, and this one is kind of a extenuation of what we talked about last week. We were talking about ChatGPT. Steph, you did the
live
demo, the
demo.
live demo, and it's like it was pretty good, but maybe we don't want ChatGPT doing this stuff, because it looks like and I'm not really shocked by this, but AI in general is just as biased as people are. Why? Because biased people program it. So,
Right.
can you tell us why maybe you don't want your ChatGPT
Yeah.
talking in Ebonics?
So they did a study that got published in Nature magazine, showing that AI makes racist decisions based on dialect. So large language models output racist stereotypes about speakers of AAVE, African American Vernacular English, even when they've been trained not to. So, the whole sort of argument around eliminating bias is, oh, you got to train the models better. You got to train the models better. You got to make sure they're not discriminating and yada, yada, yada. Even when you do that, they still, because of the nature of the data that's on the internet at all, are making biased decisions about people. So basically, they are the way the study went is they have like a bunch of different adjectives that they use to describe people, and based on the language, so they picked a sentence for instance, the one they picked for African American English, I be so happy when I wake up from a bad dream because they be feeling too real. And then the standard English is, I am so happy when I wake up from a bad dream because they feel too real. So based on sentences like that, they ask the AI to ascribe different adjectives to the person they believe spoke these words.
Oh
And
boy.
obviously when it's the the African American, English, lazy, negative, aggressive, blah 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 blah. The rude. The other one is positive. They all positive for the standard American English. So they used 2,000 social media posts written in African American English and ran through all of this, and it just time and time and time again it just came coming up with these negative adjectives, ignorant, and different things like that. The one thing that from this article that struck me was the team even found that the LLMs ascribed negative stereotypes to African American English text more consistently than human participants in similar studies from the pre-civil rights era.
No, no.
So we know how racist they was back then.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And and the AI is even worse than that. So it's just like, there really doesn't appear to be, because we just live in a racist society, there really just doesn't appear to be a whole
Can't
lot
hide
we
from it. Can't
yeah
program out
there
You
of it.
see,
yeah you can't program
yeah,
out of
you
it. there's
can't
like
Mhm.
program
there's
out of it.
really literally nothing we can do.
One of the things that I was thinking about as I read through this article is that, I would imagine that many people who listen or watch our show understand this, but there's a lot of folks who don't. Racism is not only defined by when you intentionally mean to do racist things. Like there are people, well, I didn't call you the N-word. It's like, well, that doesn't negate any racism. That doesn't negate your prejudice or your biases that you have. So what ends up happening is that there's a large segment of people that think that if I am not actively discriminating against
Wearing a
you,
white hood.
there's
Yeah.
no races there, or racism there, and that's just not the case. There's always going to be prejudice. If these things were programmed just by Black folks, there would still be stuff there because we have our own biases and stuff like that as well. But the issue comes in is that you can't, when you're training it off of the data that they're training it off of, if there's bias in that data, those LLMs, they're very good at picking up and pattern matching. That's all that they're doing. And it's like, oh, well, if this happened in this situation and this happened in that situation and that happened in that situation, why wouldn't I do it when I recognize those same situations? That's all that is happening here. So to say that, well, we didn't program it that way, you absolutely did. We can go back to the first story we talked about on the first episode of the Tech Jawn. Why would a hand dryer discriminate against the three of us as compared to just not discriminating against someone who's white? Because that's the way that it was programmed. It was programmed that darker skin tones could be shadows. Therefore, don't turn on and waste electricity when dark hands come up under it. That is not a conscious decision to discriminate against us, but because you didn't test it on skin tones that look like ours, you didn't even think that what you were coding for as shadows actually are the color of many billions of people in the world's hands. So
Yeah.
that's still bias, and the way that it's addressed, it's still racism, and
It's
like
still
people just
racism.
don't get that.
And then this other things in the study, the team found that the models associated AAE speakers, African American English speakers, with jobs such as cook and guard rather than architect or astronaut. And when fed details about hypothetical criminal trials and asked to decide whether a defendant was guilty or innocent, the models were more likely to recommend convicting speakers of AAE compared with speakers of standardized American English. And in a follow-up task, the models were more likely to sentence AAE speakers seekers to death than life imprisonment in a simulation. So it's just like, I mean, it's
Like real
really
life in
crazy,
America?
like
Is that what
real
you
life in
like real
America.
life in America? Yeah.
And they talk about the idea of covert stereotypes in here as well, and we see this a lot in the bias around names. They've done 1,000 different studies that show that the names on resumes can make or break whether or not you even get called for an interview and stuff like that. But even hobbies, they're the covert. I don't know what is a black hobby. I guess it might be like a black job, but I'm not sure what a black hobby is. But even on hobbies, it was sort of stereotyping people based on the stuff that they were into. So it's just like it just gets so tiring. And
because we
we
see it. Well,
right.
like to piggyback exactly like what have you going? It gets tiring because we see where this is going. We can see if we keep going down this path, this is going to happen X, Y, and Z. But
Hmm.
nobody's like, hey, maybe we should, maybe we need to, maybe it's better if we do this instead of that. And it's just like everybody, you can see all the billions and billions of dollars being poured into AI. You can see all of these companies trying to position themselves as the, the leader or the top or the first pick when people try to think about AI or
Hmm.
developing or whatever the case may be, right? But nobody, but we also see this stuff is happening clearly. They're reporting on it. We're talking about it. People are getting affected by it. But it's
And
just
we're
like
still
that.
getting gaslit by it. Oh
Mhm.
no, the computer
Mhm.
can't be biased. It's a computer. It doesn't have a brain. Don't gaslight me, bro. Like it.
We can see
We
it. We're
we look
looking at it. We're
right at
looking
it.
at it right now.
Right at it.
And again, it's just like we see where this is going, and this is like, all right, do we want to go down this path? And it seems like people do for the most, and
Mhm.
not, I won't say people because we for the most part are just using the technology, but in general it's just like, yeah, we've done the numbers and we're okay with this. That's the
Hmm.
impression that I get. We're
Right.
okay with the collateral damage because billions of dollars.
Right. And that's it. It's just super frustrating because I can appreciate, what the technology is capable of,
We all
but
can.
yeah, but it's just like, but it ain't ready, and y'all are just putting the cart before the horse in this instance, and it's gonna be hard to get that genie back in the bottle.
Hmm.
Yeah, it really is because once again, it's you know there probably are some AI systems where developers are intentionally programming it to be to be racist. There probably are, but I would imagine that most aren't that way. So what is causing it? Biases of the
People.
people who are doing it. And as long as people have bias and they're coding for stuff, it's going to, and as long as people
And
have
it's not
bias
even
in this training
necessarily the
data,
the
yeah,
the bias of the people, like the world. Like, are
yeah.
we live in a like it's the data is what it is. You're scraping data from the internet, and the internet is just not a great place to get data from. The internet's a cesspool.
And
It's just like
these computers and these large language models are smart enough to where even if you're not purposely coding bias in, the stuff that you leave out, the computer's like, oh, A plus B, it's got to equal C, right? And then it fills in that form. And then A plus B, typically is, like you said, stereotypical. We don't associate high paying, high aspirational jobs to, the jobs that Black folks ideally go after. So the model is like, all right, bet. Well, we're going to suggest some other stuff to them because we're
right.
that smart, And it's like, all right, is this the way we want to go? Are y'all sure?
Yeah,
And
it's
I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I know there are LLMs like Latimer
acknowledging the problem.
and well,
That's where it
that would
starts.
that would be a good start. Absolutely.
Acknowledging
Um,
that it is an issue.
there are LLMs out there that are based off of our history and our culture and different things like that. I don't know if the solution is more of those, if people need to actively seek those kind of things out and make sure that they're included in their modeling and everything. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
It's going to come down to the what is the appetite for these companies to make these things better,
Yeah.
and in some ways many of these companies, like I said, I don't want to say that, company A versus company B versus company C. Well, this one is the most racist and this one is the least racist. I don't want to say that, but what I do think is generally two of them three companies are interested in making as much money as they possibly can. So they will make the determination that, well, wait a minute, if we are adversely affecting a huge bucket of money for us. And, last time I checked, African Americans spend a lot of money in the country. So if you're creating a system to where those people are going to spend less money with you, they're going to use your stuff less, then you're probably going to try to get those biases out. And I think that is something that kind of happens. I just don't know what the appetite is for it to get it completely out. I just don't know. Yeah. And it's like, we're not going to make AI solve a problem that we can't solve as people. I mean, right. This is an issue that people are dealing with.
Thing. It's like how you expect the computer to act any differently than the people, right. That live here and use it.
If you're training off of data that has prejudice and racism in it, then the AI is going to have prejudice and racism in it by the nature of what it was trained on. You cannot have those two things be, out of alignment. So y'all, we're going to keep talking about biases in AI and stuff like this. It seems like we keep talking about this, this next story here. So I read a article today in the Washington Post. And it basically was about how police, shock, seldom disclose use of facial recognition, despite the number of false arrests that they do. So I want to say they looked at like 15 different police stations, across the country and pulled all this data that you normally don't get. And what they're determining is that even though the police are not telling you, they actively are they're actively hiding the fact. So in fact, officers often obscured their reliance on facial recognition software in public facing reports, saying that they identify suspects through investigative means or that of a human source, such as a witness or police officer that made the initial identification. So you have police officers that are using facial recognition and not telling the suspects that they've used facial recognition, which is basically violating their rights. And then on top of that, they're lying and saying that they didn't use it when they actually did. I'm not shocked by any of this, but it seems to me like someone's going to need to start caring about it. Not necessarily because you don't want innocent people to get hemmed up, but because innocent people keep winning these lawsuits for millions of dollars against these municipalities. And at some point, somebody's going to say, we got to stop making these payments out to people. What can we do to make these payments go away? Oh, maybe we should stop using this technology that is clearly biased against Black and brown people.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it sounds like, some of these different small, especially in some of the smaller townships like Pflugerville, Texas, like they're actually requiring their law enforcement officers to lie by omission. And as far as, well, we don't feel compelled to tell people the methodologies of investigations that we use to come to these conclusions. And it's just like, but you're telling them to lie by omission, basically. Yeah. And you're removing people's due process, which, ain't that in the Constitution? Like, I'm pretty sure something of that nature about due process, everybody being entitled to due process,
being entitled to face your accuser. Yeah. If the AI is a thing saying we flagged this person, and then if you're not even told that AI was used, you can't go back and say, well, wait a minute, for Black women, this thing is 10,000% worse than it is for white men. Maybe it made a flaw. If you don't even know that that's how you are identified, how would your lawyer ever be able to bring that up?
Yep.
Exactly.
It just goes back to, like you said, which is crazy, right? Because like you mentioned, Stephanie, they want them the idea is to lie by omission, but the police stay asking questions of people who let's just use a traffic stop or whatever. The reason why I pulled you over because your lights are out, your tail lights or your license is suspended or whatever. And then they proceed to ask you all these other questions. They call it phishing. To find all this other instead of telling you, hey, you're well within your right. not to respond to my any questions. You instead of doing it right, it's just like y'all want to pick and prod around. But when it comes to, all right, well, let me pick and prod y'all because y'all pulled me over, y'all use this facial recognition. Oh, now y'all want now lying by omission. It's like, oh, we want to make sure that nah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're gonna try to pull me up on some randomized, non-provable information, then I should be able to do the same thing. And if that's what sloppy facial recognition is, then all right, two can play that game.
Yeah, it's a mess, and I was looking at the instance in Miami, specifically. There's a woman state attorney for Miami-Dade County. She claimed she didn't know about facial recognition. There were like 186 cases um, that were identified where people weren't informed that that had been used. And she said, it's more important for us to work on a policy moving forward, and that her office could not commit to reviewing all 186 cases that were identified by the Washington Post. And it just kind of struck me like, okay, that was in the that was in the past. We just gonna do better going forward. But you have
Mm-hmm.
people that are
Mhm.
potentially sitting in prison right now,
Yeah.
sitting in jail
Mm-hmm.
right now, waiting trial, who it is just as likely are innocent as it is that it could be that they're guilty because of this faulty technology, and you're not even willing to commit to reviewing it. And it's just like, hopefully this gets out to people who need to hear it, to get in touch with their public defenders or get in touch with their attorneys to say, hey, find out if they use this when they arrested me, because I'm telling you I didn't do this shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure
Mhm.
why I'm sitting in here right now. I was
Right.
in such and such, I don't even know what this is about, but here I am. So find out if they were using this. So if y'all got somebody on lock right now that's claiming they
Yeah.
didn't do it, find out if that police department actually used facial recognition, in any part of their investigation, because they could have gotten it wrong, and you could
And
be,
why are they not disclosing that up
yeah,
front? It's like you
Because they know it's problematic.
I know, but
They,
what I'm saying is why isn't it in our
better
obviously
interest to not have innocent people sitting in jail for no reason.
right, in general, just in general.
Right,
It's
just
just
in
like,
general.
yeah.
Exactly, like, because we have a for-profit prison system, number
Yeah.
1, so
yeah.
it
All
is
right,
better
wait,
to have
Yeah.
it
this
is
is a
better to have
different
Yeah.
people in
Yeah.
prison,
It's
it's a
like
whole different
Arizona and
but
podcast.
yeah, a
Alabama
whole
and
different
Mississippi
podcast, yeah,
and
whole different podcast, but
right.
yeah, we have a for-profit prison system, and it is actually better to have people populating those cells than not, and if, even if they're innocent, so let's just,
See if
it
we can catch
it's
them slipping.
Mhm.
yeah, the system is just completely broken.
Yeah,
Completely broken.
there is a judge. I don't even know where this judge is, but I see videos of him come up every so often. And one of the things that he does very, very regularly in his court is he dismisses walking while black charges. And so you'll be in, and it'll be like, well, this person is under arrest because we found marijuana that was 0.02 ounces over what is legally allowed. It's like, so he runs the question, well, what made you check them in the first place? And it's like, well, they were jaywalking. Show me the video of where they were jaywalking. And what it turns out, they were in a crosswalk while it was blinking red.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not while it was solid red, but if anybody who knows how
It's a
Mhm.
crosswalks
warning.
work, you
Mhm.
start walking across when they're green, but when they're getting ready to change, they start blinking to let you know. Well, this officer said, well, he was in a crosswalk while it was blinking red. So jaywalking. Dismissed. And it's like, well, don't you want to hear the rest of the case? Don't need to hear the rest
Absolutely
of the
not.
case.
Absolutely
Dismissed. It's
not.
like the only reason you legally and stopped him is because he was in a crosswalk while it was blinking. That sounds like walking while black. Case
Sounds a
dismissed.
lot like profiling.
Sounds an
Mhm.
awful lot like profiling. But here's where the AI comes in, because we've talked about cases on here. We talked about the case in Detroit where the gentleman, I believe, now has won millions of dollars from the city of Detroit because the officer told him, this doesn't look like you, but it is flagging back to you. I have no choice but to arrest you. That's what they told me to do. So he's saying that it's recorded, it's picked up on his body cam that you're arresting somebody that you with your own eyes are looking at a picture and say, it doesn't look like you, but I have no choice. I want to arrest you. But now what can happen is that, oh, well, the AI flagged him, so we went and picked him up. And it's like, well, did it? And here's the other thing that people need to look at. If your lawyer asks, well, how did you recognize this person? They say it was AI. Look and make sure that the AI flagged them before they actually got arrested, because there have been some cases where the officer said, well, it was based off of an AI identification, but it's like, well, wait a minute, you already had them hemmed up. What was the original charge that actually made you go look at the person in the first place? It couldn't have been AI, because you didn't run that until you had them in the station. So there's all kind of things. I'm not a fan of people getting their rights trampled over, and this is just another one to where it's not even that they're not telling you, they're lying about it. It's like, I don't want to use the word obfuscate. I want to say lie. They lying and saying they didn't use it when they did.
Not only are they lying in jurisdictions where they've not allowed AI facial recognition in cases, the police precincts just use the AI from other adjoining districts. So like, if you can't do it in this county, but you can do it in this county, they just get those officers to do it for them. So they're still doing it. They're Austin, Texas, I believe, had to actually not only outlaw the use of AI and face recognition, but also say you can't go and get it from somebody else as well. And it's just like, come on, y'all. Like, seriously, like, we got to tell y'all this, but yes, we do.
Trying so hard to do everything except to protect and serve.
Everything.
You should be protecting and serving.
That's it.
And y'all doing the opposite.
Doing the most.
Hemming
That's
us
what
up.
they doing. The absolute most.
Yeah. Just please be better. Just be better. You don't have to do this. You could police in a much, much, much better way. But keeping it on facial recognition, y'all. Steph, you stuck this in here, but I actually talked about this story last Thursday when it broke, about these two gentlemen at Harvard who using some Meta Ray-Bans and some off-the-shelf software are ultimately able to, with these Meta Ray-Bans, walk around college campuses, walk around train stations, look at people, and within 60 to 90 seconds, identify who they are, where they live, they're at, impertinent information about them significantly quickly. Like I said, the way you wrote this is what could go wrong. But folks who are worried about what could go wrong, you don't miss the boat, because this stuff is just now hooked up to glasses. They've been able to do this with phones for a while.
Listen, it's just this, but this in particular just like terrifies me as a woman, because you're out here in this world, minding your business, going about your daily life. Maybe somebody stops you, wants to try to holla, you say, no, thank you, I'm good, I'm on my way, whatever the thing is you do to not engage with that person, and you keep it moving. But now they've been able to look at you for a long enough time wearing these glasses. You don't necessarily notice, because you may not even because they're, apparently, the Meta Ray-Bans have, there's some little indicator light that does show that you're recording, but they did say that you can't really see it that well in bright light. You know what I mean? Depending on the conditions or whatever, you may not necessarily see it. So you're having this conversation with somebody wearing glasses similar to the ones I have on my face right now. And you think nothing of it. And you're like, no, thank you, that's okay. Meanwhile, this person has now captured your image.
All right, Stephanie.
And real time knows where I live, may know where I work, may know my age, may know my phone number, whatever sort of information that, I've ever shared on the internet, they have access to. So I'm on my way home, and this person is sitting outside my front door in their car waiting for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is truly, truly terrifying technology. And it's you can say, oh, it's been readily available, and and they didn't do anything. They didn't actually build anything. You can grab all this information in different ways, but you weren't able to do it this way in real time,
Hmm.
instantaneous, using these glasses before now. And it's just like, why? Like, I get that they kind of just did it as a thought experiment, really,
Mhm.
more than anything else.
Right.
However, now you've put it out there. It's called eye x-ray. You've put it out there. They said, quote, the purpose of building this tool is not for misuse, and we are not releasing it. It's too late. Even if you never release your version, you've put it out there that it's possible.
Mhm.
So the person that does have nefarious
Hmm.
intentions can do exactly what you just did, because you put everything about how you did it out there on the internet. As far as not releasing it, you still basically told us how to do it. And so now anybody who has the intention to do something like this, I think of people in domestic violence situations, people that have stalkers,
Well, I mean,
people
we've
that
said
have just, it's just
you ain't even got to go
crazy.
that far, Stephanie. There have been women who have been attacked because of just that exact reason. Somebody comes up to you, want to spark up a conversation, you
Hmm.
feel automatically figure out they want more than just directions or
Right.
whatever the case may be. The conversation goes further, and before you even can say, or before you can turn around and walk the other way after saying no, I'm not interested, people will get aggressive, to say
Yeah.
the least. So
Hmm.
imagine if they also know, now they know your cell phone number.
Right.
Now they can triangulate or approximate or get your precise address.
Right.
You don't think them same people that was going to push up on her without this technology, now they're going to have this technology and be like, yeah, that's too far.
Right, right. It is so scary. And I watched the video that they put on X, that where they were using it. And I mean, and it was just so crazy how people were so willing to be like, "Oh yeah, that's me." Like the people they approached in the, like, there's an article in The Verge. Go check out the article. I think we'll probably have it on our show notes, and check out the video on X, because the
Hmm.
way people were just so willing to be like, and they only had little bits and pieces of information, but
Yeah.
they were able to make you think that they knew you. And I did speak at that conference. Yeah, yeah. It's just, this world is just too
and
much.
and
It's just
and
too
and
much.
here's why that
Scary.
works. Here's why that level of social engineering works, because if you are someone who was up on stage talking about something and someone from the audience recognizes you, oh yeah, that was me, and then you're thinking you're extending the conversation when
Hmm.
actually this person just found out 20 seconds before before they said something to you who you are, and they now know how to have that conversation.
Yeah,
So
it's so
I do
terrible.
agree that part is scary. I don't know what the answer is, because First Amendment is not going to change. People are going to be able to take pictures of whomever they want to take pictures of, as long as those people are out in public. And for parents who are thinking that people can't take pictures of your kids when they're out in public, that's just creepy and weird, but it's not
Yeah,
illegal. They can do it.
yeah.
So what is the answer? Do you never leave your home anymore if you're worried about being captured on on video?
Well, these folks put a tiny little disclaimer. There's a document. If you check out the show notes, you see the Verge article that gets posted, and you go to that post on X that they made as they were demonstrating it. There's a link in there to a document about this technology, and way down at the bottom, their suggestion is to scrape yourself from the internet. Basically,
Hmm.
there's all type of reputation removal tools and information. So you telling me I just should not be on the internet at all? Like, that's not a realistic
But the,
solution
but the,
to this problem.
but even worse, right? I saw. Click. Did you? You maybe just said this and I skipped over it. Um, there's another note on this document
Hmm.
that's found in the article, to where what you just said, we're getting a few reports. Fast people search
You
is
think?
unreliable and users are unable to remove themselves. If this is you, fill out the Google form, add fast people search error in the additional comments, and we will try to fix it for you ASAP. So the thing that they suggested you do don't
Right.
even work.
Don't even work. And that's not a solution. Like, people need to be on the internet. People need to have a presence. So it's the internet. Like, there really isn't a situation where somebody can be like, somebody maybe can be off the grid, but there isn't a situation where, for 99% of us, where we cannot be on the internet. And if you are there in any
Yeah.
capacity, these glasses and this technology has the capability of finding out some of your personal information, and it's just crazy to me.
This information has been easily in readily accessible for celebrities. And what a lot of people, the way they've justified it, oh, well, that's the price of fame. If you're a famous person, then you trade a bit of
Right.
anonymity. How you say the word?
Anonymity.
There you go. You trade that word for the fact that you get paid millions of dollars to be on TV and sing, or and be on the radio, or whatever the case is. That you're making that trade. And that's a weak argument, for that. Number one, but number two, now this is extending to literally anyone whose picture is on their Facebook profile, on their Instagram profile, on their TikTok profile, on their Snapchat profile, on on their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, I was gonna say LinkedIn.
Yeah, anyone like that. And then LinkedIn has where you worked.
Right.
It has
Where
connections
you
like that.
currently work.
It's like it's not hard to take a picture of somebody and then do a quick search and find out if they're on LinkedIn, and then you have all this information. So I don't know, honestly, I don't know what the answer is. I think that we just have to become more aware of our surroundings, and do and do things to mitigate bad things that potentially could happen, because this genie is out of the bottle. It was just a matter of
I
time, in
know.
my
It
opinion, until this
just
happened.
sucks though, but it's just like, you don't have to do everything that pops into your head. Y'all sitting around thinking of this, like, wow, wouldn't it be crazy if you could just do it with the glass? Like, you could have just said, wow, wouldn't it be crazy, and left it there. You didn't actually have to take the steps to write the code, to link the software together, to make it work with your Ray-Bans, to do all, like, you didn't have to do that. You could have finished that thought experiment in your head or in conversation. You could have been like, you know what, wouldn't it be cool if you could just use your glasses to oh, but man, can you imagine how egregiously that could be misused? Like, you could finish the thought experiment with that and say, yeah, man, this would be terrible for like women and like
Mm.
stalkers, and man, this would be, so maybe let's not do it. Like, we could maybe think through how to do it, just because that we're intellectuals and we like solving problems and we like figuring stuff out. But then let's not do that. Maybe let's think through a different solution for how we combat this type of thing, or how, like, you could have did y'all go to Harvard, you smart-ish, you could have thought about anything and how to do anything, and it never occurred to you to stop and pause for 2 seconds and be like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't do that, because number one, you claiming you're not releasing it. If somebody throw a big enough bag at
Yeah,
you,
it
you're
doesn't matter.
releasing that shit.
It
And it
well,
doesn't matter
it's not
because it's
even
out
them,
there now.
because they're
It's out
using,
there now.
they're using, they're using Meta Ray Bans. They're using some off the shelf software. This is something that they built this in a day.
In a day.
In a day, two guys built this in a day. And once again, they're both at Harvard. And so you figure that they are smart people, but they did this in a day. So, not that I'm taking the other side, but I can see the other side of it. They probably never thought about that stuff.
But
Oh,
that's the problem.
dude, I was able to hook my glasses up to be able to
That
do this. So
that's the
to
problem.
make one or two individuals have to think about all the ramifications of what they're, what
It's
they were
not even
doing.
You smart
all.
enough.
It's
You
not
smart
even
enough.
all, but it's not
With your
even
big brain.
all. That's the straight line. Like, that's the obvious thing that would happen if you had technology like this. This is not even something you would have to consider on top of all of the mental calculations you did to make this thing. That's the obvious next step. It really, really is. And for anybody who doesn't think it is, you have a privilege I will never know. If you don't take that as the obvious next step in this kind of technology. So Ray said, proof of concept is a blueprint to a criminal product. And it's true. It's like
Mhm.
you've already given the criminals the idea for this, and you gave them the blueprint on how to do it. And the fact that you wouldn't have thought, the same as social media companies, tech companies now saying we never knew that social media was going to turn into this. We never knew that people were going to get bullied and kids would be mental health. That's the obvious next step. And the fact that
Right.
you didn't think that far shows your lack of empathy. It shows your lack of humanity. And it's just a privilege that 90% of the population just doesn't get to have.
Yeah, it's
And
gonna
seen.
yeah. I'm reminded of what was that movie with Tom Cruise where he had to remove his eyes so they couldn't recognize who he was?
Minority Report.
Minority Report. The folks who wrote that movie, they thought about this stuff. But that's where we're going. We're going to get to a point to
We
where
ain't going.
you're
We're
going
there.
to be
We are
immediately
there.
recognized, no matter where you are, who you are. So
we are we're absolutely there, because we just talked about AI facial recognition and policing,
Mhm.
and that's basically pre-crime. Literally, you're arresting people for things you think they did. Like it's almost pre-crime because you can't get into their heads, but same difference.
Yeah, and one of the things that the articles pointed out on this is that the government, they have, in some cases, maybe not if you're one of these 15 police departments, just to do whatever they want to do, but they actually have some limits on how they can use facial recognition technology. Private companies and private citizens don't. They can use it however they want to use it, as long as they're not violating someone's civil rights, which technically you are not. It's like, you put your picture in this place. There's nothing that says I can't, go in and look at this picture and compare it to this picture and determine that you are that person in the picture and pull all the information up, instantaneously, or as they're saying, 60 to 90 seconds. Which is pretty darn quick for something that they built in a day. Because what's going to happen is that that's 60 to 90 seconds today. That's going to be 60 to 90 milliseconds in a year, and then it's going to be towards instantaneous, to where you just look at somebody and it pops up right there on the screen, right in your glasses, showing you who they are, where you last interacted with them, and information about them, so you know how to go have a warm conversation as compared to having a cold one.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
What do we always say about the internet? It is the most wonderful, horrible place.
Just because you can does not mean you should.
So y'all, before we shut things down, we're not really doing a spotlight this week, but in a bit of sad news, we want to report that Roy Clay Sr., aka the Godfather of Silicon Valley, passed away last month at the age of 95. We earlier did a spotlight on Mr. Clay, who led the team which built HP's 2116A mini computer, which was the second 16-bit computer ever created. He also was the first Black VP at Hewlett-Packard and was the first African-American to serve on the Palo Alto City Council, as well as hold the position of vice mayor of the city. Mr. Clay was instrumental in the recruiting of hundreds of Black IT professionals in Silicon Valley, setting up programs at HP and other companies to recruit talent from HBCUs. Very early on when he was at HP, he brought in 5 bros from, I believe, Morehouse to come and work there. And that was like the first time, that a company of that stature had ever, recruited out of a HBCU. So we want to send our condolences to the family of Roy Clay Sr., the Godfather of Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. Rest in power.
So before we make our final exit, just folks, if you would like to support the Tech Jawn, we talked at the top of the show how you could do it via Patreon, and we do announce our patrons in the show. So we did get a new patron this week. We want to give a shout out to Wayne P. Thank you for supporting the show and holding us down. So once again, anyone who is interested in supporting the show that way, you can do so by heading over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. And there's multiple tiers over there. Anyone is going to get you access to our live stream and our after party, which we're about to do in about 25 to 30 seconds. So with that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or check out StephanieHumphrey.com.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BrothaTech.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So come holler at us however we holler. And until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.